Ysbrand, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you for this introduction. Shall I use the mic as well?
Yes.
I think I have to. Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm here to discuss the topic on, okay, you subscribed for the double-handed race upcoming June, and then what are you going to do between now and then, basically? And I hope a few of you did already subscribe. Who did already? Okay, a few hands. Good, great. That's good to hear. So I hope I can give you some insights and some ideas how to proceed from now on until you reach the starting line. And obviously there will be some gray areas between me and my other co-speaker. So sometimes I might be the one who's being asked not to tell anything about the topic. Feel free to ask, but then I'll transfer that to either Erik or John. And they will, I just ask them, please give me a sign if I'm too much on your field of expertise, because obviously they know as much as this field as I know, and vice versa. Okay. So basically, how to win a double-handed race, and more importantly, preparation. And in my opinion, preparation is 80% of your final result. And this is not something I'm saying because it's a nice sentence. It's because I was involved from big ocean races like a Brunel, or more early involved for 70 scene with the ABN AMRO, which started 2 years before the race even started, but also myself with the class 40 mini transat, where, for instance, I did a 2011 mini transat, started prepping 2008, did a 22 Club 40, started prepping at 2019. So it takes time if you, it depends obviously a little bit on your level and on where you start, in combination with your co-skipper, how much time it takes. For instance, John got a new ship last year, but he has like an immense amount of miles with his co-skipper. So obviously he doesn't need 3 years. But if you start now with a new co-skipper, then basically the time frame is really, really short if you start now. And what do you need to do? Well, basically it's a circle. And it's a circle that is moving around those topics. And when you have used the first full circle, going from your hull to how to sail together, getting targets done, your training and your goals in the training, your interpretation between each other, your safety, basically your hardware and your software, and above self-reflection, you need a period of rest. And then you will take again, you take up the same points again, only on a deeper level. So it's important to understand that in your preparation, you will try to go through this list of details a few times, 3, 4, 5 times, because each time you will be able to achieve only 70 to 80% of your end goal. And each time you will make a step forward. And that's what you need, because each time you made the whole circle, the next time you're coming back to your first item, you will look into that same item with different eyes, with more knowledge. And I know a few guys here or a few ships here, basically a few teams here in the area here have been training with me, like Marcel, but also Hans. We have done partly that. Last year, I started quite a lot on your ship, Marcel. And this year, I see in your results, I hear obviously from Anton that you're going through the same cycle, but with eyes, with experience within the team. And the things you learned in the first row, in the first circle, you're taking on again. So, for instance, the ship and the hull, these are a few pictures from the SEC Hayai when we did the preparation. This is like during our second circle. In our first circle, during the first year, we broke a few things. We understood that there were vital parts of the ship that needed to be upgraded, like a boom that was going to split because he put too much power onto it, like the top piece here on your right top. You can see we even had to reinforce partly of the bulkheads on the foreship because we put so much tension on it. We started to break the nose. That was not very handy if you want to sail quickly, let alone if you want to do this around the world. The third one is a typical picture. This is how the hull looked outside. So obviously, when you have a hull that is not completely nice and trimmed, you will not go fast. So you need to work on that. And happily in the Netherlands, we have a lot of specialists who can help you with that. Eric is one of them. At the end of our third circle, I was discussing with him, hey, I have these problems with helming. And we discussed together about it, and he said to me, have you checked your rudder shape? Maybe you should look at it. And together with a friend of his, Arthur Peltzer, we looked at the shape. He checked my shape, the shape of the hull, and we discovered, first of all, the red line is the original shape of the rudder. The black line was a design like an upgrade. And he measured all those things, and he said, well, your rudders are way, way, way out of shape. The result was, when he brought them back into shape, that the helming was like 3 times as light, better, easier on your ship to move, less consumptions on my autopilot, and in the whole, a much easier ship to sail. And an easier ship to sail, in my opinion, will always transfer into a ship that sails fast. Because the easier a ship sails, the fastest you will go with only 80% of your focus. And when you do an offshore race, maybe the first 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on the person, you will have a lot of focus. But at one point, your focus will go down. And especially, obviously, with an offshore round the world race, we're not talking about hours, we're talking about days. And the lag was between 12 and 35 days. You can imagine focus will go down, especially when you get sleep deprivation, food deprivation, etc. So an easy sailing ship will always make you fast, in my opinion. And Eric totally agreed on that. And he helped me with that. And it was very much noticeable. And we are not talking about a few percent. We are talking about 8 to 10%. So huge, huge. And that's mainly because the amount of rudder I needed to give to make the boat move was like a third or even a fourth of what we used to have. And obviously rudder is basically a plank in the water. So any larger movement will just jeopardize your speed in a great situation. This is just a very clear example of how important it is to go through this circle again. With my class 40 campaign, I went 3 times through the complete circle. That means 3 seasons in this case, 3 times on the shore, 3 times hull preparation, 3 times deck preparation, 3 times mast preparation, sails, etc., etc. And each time I took one up, and each time I managed to solve about 80%, 70%, and I decided to go on with that. And the next time we already had the 70%, obviously, so there was 30% left, but there was always an addiction, something added to what we needed to change, because we learned during the season what we extra wanted to change. And therefore you need to go through the cycle. And basically, John is doing the same now. He started with his ship last year. We spoke with each other like after your first race, during your North Sea race. And you said, well, we did quite good, but I have a large fucking list of things I need to change. So he went through the circle. And the next time we saw each other again, he was on the Fastnet. Way better. So much better performance. Suddenly he was on target. They made other mistakes. And there he goes again for his next circle. That's how it works. Please tell me if I'm talking bullshit, but I'm not, I know. Okay, so to give you some examples. Common ground. Who does what on board? Obviously, Eric and Yvonne will discuss and explain how they did it and how they look into that. But it's important between now and the moment when you're on the starting line that you have figured that out intensely. Obviously, when I train double-handed teams, it's often the case that a owner is driving and his second skipper is doing the other things, whatever the other things may be. That's a lot of time the case. My first tip is swap the positions. I'm not saying in the race, but at least in several trainings. You will both learn from each other what you're missing. How can you help each other at certain positions? Maybe someone is at certain moments better in helming at a certain moment than the other. And at least you will understand each other better. Because when you are on the foredeck and there's like 25 knots of wind and you have to swap some sail, it's very nice that you can trust your helmsman or woman who's standing in the back 10 meters behind you or 12 or something like that. And you know you can trust him or her. And she understands or he understands what you are doing there. So discuss this. Put it on the table. What did you like? Why did he or she do this or that? Where you had trouble in getting your role, doing your work, so to speak. For instance, if you have to change your J2 to a J1 or J1 to a J2 foresail, that's often a little bit too late. Or you have to drop your spinnaker and there's a little bit too much wind because it's just a little bit too late. It's nice to know that the person behind the helm knows what to do to help you and also knows what to do to not help you, because often that's the case. You cannot help each other on something that you don't know. So learn from each other. Talk with each other. How's my time frame going, by the way? Oh, I have some time. I have some time, eh?
You have some time.
You have some time? Yeah, she's my time guide, so I'm just making sure that that I'm within the time frame. Okay. And again, on this circle, and with this topic, please use it within the same circle again. With France, when I started my round the world race, the first time we jibed, I know 15 knots of wind, 12 knots of wind. I asked him, how do you jibe? He was taught by his father and his family and his past. I said, well, there's maybe a little bit, quite a bit of wind. We'll drop the spinnaker, we jibe, hoist it again. Okay, that's a very safe way. You'll get your spinnaker back up, and looking in the whole broad situation on, say, 5,000 miles, then you lose a quarter or so, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because before you back up to speed, it takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of energy. So there's always a trade-off between safety, risk management, and the amount of energy you're gonna use. So we started training, and obviously I learned them how to jibe and with the sail up. And at the end of our round the world race, we jibed even at 25 knots. And obviously we went there because first at 50 knots, okay, we know how to save, we know how to jibe safely. And then that edge, that border, slowly moves forward. 15 becomes 18, 18 becomes 20, etc., etc. The confidence on the same part also grows. So we learned, for instance, that's better that when we jibe, he usually was on the helm, but in the end it was better if I was on the helm and he was managing the sheets because it went better. So swap places, go to the circle again and again and again as often as you can, will help you and give you a lot of information. Training. Obviously, as professional trainer, we all are. We don't often hire an external trainer anymore. We know the drills, we know how it works, we know how to get to a certain point. But if you are not a pro sailor, I would always advise you, if you have a larger list of things, topics you can't get your head around, or you don't know exactly how to get around, ask people who are pros, ask the three of us. Maybe you hire us for a day or two, or maybe a day or 5, because you will get in 5 days or in 2 days, probably 10 to 20 times more information, also directions where you can make steps forward in only a very limited amount of time. That's what we bring on the table. So much information, so much knowledge, we will give you the way forward. How to proceed with maneuvering, living on board, roles on board, navigation, etc., etc. Don't understand me wrongly. Of course, you will probably be able to figure it out yourself. But it will take time, a lot of time. And if you hire a professional sailor, he or she will give you so much information that you can make a lot of steps forward within very, very short time, and you will benefit from it. So that is what it can bring. And again, in this circle, maybe in your first, well, let's say we have 5 months left. So in your first 1.5, 2 months, you'll have a whole list of things you want to increase on performance, whether it's boat handling or navigation or roles or food or whatever you want to achieve. Take it home, try to cut a list, and say in March or in April, you will go again to that point and see where are we now. And did we make enough progression to be able to be at the starting line with enough confidence to at least play a nice role, be satisfied with your result when you have finished in the end the double-handed race. And if you're not there, try to figure out what do we need to do to get there. And then you look into the point, what does training bring? Discussing things is really important. If you don't do it, you just keep on going forward and you don't know where the point is in the distance. You only know that at the beginning of June we have the starting moment. But try to get some goals, to name some goals in between where you want to be at a certain moment, and take action if you don't get there. Unless, obviously, you don't want to get there. That's also fine. But it's your choice to be on the starting line. And it should be fun. And a good trainer will also bring you fun, because fun is also something we all like to do on the boat. Interpretation. I have seen a lot of times people being all the way in the nose, shouting something in the back, and the helmsman or woman needs to understand something. It's nice to understand from each other, what do you mean? What do you really mean? And also discuss this. It's as important as training, because you can start shouting and doing things, but taking that to another level, for instance, if you're talking about the ship doesn't feel good, okay, that's best fake, eh? That's the best fake sentence when you are sleeping in your bunk and you're, say, upwind sailing, and somebody steps in and he or she says, the ship doesn't feel good. Okay, what doesn't feel good? What do you mean? Can you help him or her? What can you do when you're back on your watch to get this feeling better? In what areas do you need to search for it? That will be answered partly by Eric and Yvonne. I take it, by the way. I hope. But trying to understand each other, know what you're saying. Of course, port is port and starboard is starboard. That's simple. But it's very close to helping each other when you swap roles on board sometimes in a training. And maybe also in a test race. And a lot of you are sailing here the Ijspegel and Ijskegel, so you will learn there. But try to put some daily goals on each race here. Don't go into racing here each second weekend with only one goal. We want to win. I think your goal, if you want to be on the starting line with the double-handed, is not to win here, but you want to achieve your best result in 5 months. So there are sub-goals. With France, for instance, when we sailed here the Ijskegel as training, we also had these sub-goals, like testing our autopilot, like not using autopilot at the starting line, because that was a habit of France. That was not a very nice habit, because it's really dangerous. So you have to change habits sometimes. Maybe you have a new sail you want to test out. Test it in a race, at least one race, so you know how to use it. Maybe you want to test new lines. Maybe you want to test new procedures. That's all sub-goals you can use here during the Ijskegel or the Ijspegel. When you learn something from the quite difficult current and wind situations around here after listening to John. Try to use that as your main goal, and then your end position in such a race is not so important, but your goal is.
Nog een paar minuutjes.
Great. Thank you. We're not there yet. Well, obviously safety is a very important thing, and safety is always in combination. You know, in combination between the training stuff we already discussed, the interpretation stuff, do we understand each other, and obviously also your hardware. How do you set up your hardware on the ship? Most ships will have a lifeline on the side as a standard thing. But why not think about having a lifeline through the middle? Because it might be 10 times safer and easier. But you have to work towards that to see, okay, what do I need to change and why, and what's the benefit? What's the positive or the negative part? But I do know that if you broach, so if the boat goes over 90 degrees and you're, for instance, hooked on the leeward side of your ship, then the whole hooking on is very, very dangerous because you will swapped overboard because you hooked there. You want to be hooked there, but you can get in your broach and you're probably hooked on the wrong side. If you hooked on in the middle, you're at least 10 times safer. So think about these things and talk about people, ask questions. Is my ship in this way, in the most safe way, connected? For instance, France and I chose to have a short line in the middle, port and starboard, so a little bit out of the center, that we could clip on within the cockpit, and we were only able to go to the mast. So we chose deliberately to click on at the mast. And why? Because first of all, we could find a free route between the cockpit and the mast, and that's basically the most often places you go, because that's also safety. Anything before the mast, well, your lifeline is about 1 meter or 1.5 meters, so you can always step a little bit forward to the mast. But being on the nose, we try to avoid as much as possible, because that's the most unsafest place. So try to use good furlers, try to use other situations, other procedures, other technical solutions for problems you might think you have, and there might be easier solutions than you think. And if you don't have them, which is totally understandable, ask people who do have the knowledge, because in this yacht club we have a lot of people with a lot of knowledge, as of us, as an example. So think about it, because safety is a whole wide range of things. Hardware, obviously, good life jacket, but also what do you carry inside? PRB, AS, both things, these are 2 minimum items I would always be carrying. And I can also imagine that you're not always having your life vest on, but you have maybe your trousers more on. That was, at least in my case, the situation. So I put both my PRB and my AS in my trousers. I sewed them in my trousers, so I would always have them with me, because I never go out on my foredeck or in the middle deck without my trousers on, because getting wet is really, really not nice, unless there is like 25 degrees and 10 knots of wind or 8 knots of wind. So think out of the box. Try to think out of the box. And safety, again, is not about pinpointing, but it's the whole thing. Last but not least, self-reflection. To go to the second round, you need to look into yourself together. What are we going to do the next round? And it's really, really important. If you don't do that, you won't get enough out of the first round if you go through the circle. And going through the circle will help you getting your level up. Also, but anybody here who won a lot of races, we never went from the first step to the 10th step. We all had to step in between. Maybe we could swap sometimes 1 step. We could go 2 steps or 3 steps in a go, but we all had to make steps in between. So whenever you have a feeling that you're not going to make it, or you find it very difficult, take into account step by step and you will get there. Just keep on going. My last tip, my last thing, a lot of people talk about luck. And I had a very nice friend now, We met each other. I think he is smiling because he knows this sentence, because he told me that, and I really believe it. Luck is really when preparation meets opportunity. That is luck. Because if you're really, really prepared and a situation occurs that you have no influence in, then you can only take that occurrence when you do have the best preparation you could have. I hope you all wrote down a lot of questions. Thank you.